Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation of the Kirk webinar series entitled Aiming Upstream, Waste Prevention Campaigns. My name is Larry Cook. I'm Recycling and Waste Manager at the University of South Carolina, as well as Chair of the Kirk Board of Directors. I'll be your moderator today. For those of you not familiar with Kirk, the College and University Recycling Coalition is a member-based organization that works to grow collegiate recycling and waste reduction efforts by fostering technical information exchange and networking opportunities between the staff and student leaders implementing programs. Today's program is part of our free Kirk webinar series, which is designed to highlight innovative campus programs and provide trends and perspectives on a broad range of operational, educational, and other topics related to collegiate recycling and sustainable materials management. We'll have details about our upcoming December webinar at the end of this program. I want to thank our partner, AASHE, the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education, for the planning and promotional support of the webinar series. I also want to recognize two organizations, New Dream and Root Solutions, for their participation in today's program. We have a few housekeeping notes to go over. If you have problems with your audio or video during the webinar, you can reach a live technician by calling GoToWebinar's customer support line at 800-263-6317. To avoid background noise, we've placed all but our panelists' lines on mute. We encourage you to submit questions at any time, however, by using the dashboard on the right side of your screen. Simply click the plus symbol where it says questions to type us a note, and we will read as many of these as possible out loud at the end of the presentations. Copies of today's presentation slides are available to download now from the Kirk website, www.curc3.org, and we'll have a recording available to stream within the next day. On today's webinar, we'll hear three presentations focused on waste prevention campaigns. While most campus efforts focus on recycling or even reuse, we often struggle for effective strategies to reduce consumption at the outset. We'll start with a presentation from Kelly Dennings and Casey Williams of the nonprofit organization New Dream, sharing recent research and resources to encourage holiday gift giving focused on experiences rather than stuff. Next, we'll hear from Lauren Heileman with another nonprofit organization, Root Solutions. Lauren will share an overview of the Turning the Page on Campus Paper Use initiative they are conducting in partnership with AASHE. Finally, we'll hear from Elaine Cole of Portland Community College in Oregon, describing their campaign to reduce the use of personal printers. Kelly Dennings started her social and behavior change career in the recycling industry and then worked on forest conservation issues. She has conducted social marketing, social media, public relations, and traditional advertising projects throughout her 20-year career. In 2018, she finished her master's in public health at the University of South Florida, where she volunteered with New Dream on her thesis. She currently works for Action Research, a community-based social marketing agency, and is the founding president of the Social Marketing Association of North America. Casey Williams joined New Dream in March 2013 after spending 15 years developing programs related to sustainable design and development, natural resource management, and land revitalization. Her past experience includes managing the Virginia Natural Resource Leadership Institute for UVA's Institute for Environmental Negotiation, helping to figure out creative ways to reuse old industrial properties across the country, implementing preservation development strategies for a 2,300-acre farm in Albemarle County, Virginia, and leading environmental education workshops for Audubon International and the Isaac Walton League. Welcome, Kelly and Casey.
Thank you. Let's see, this is Casey, and I will be speaking first and am working to advance the slide. There we go. All right, New Dream. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about New Dream as an organization, background about its history, and then we'll pass it over to Kelly to tell you more about her research, which was a part of New Dream in the last year. Since New Dream's founding in 1997, New Dream, which was formerly known as the Center for a New American Dream, has been a pioneer in raising awareness of the negative impacts of a hyper-consumer culture. New Dream empowers individuals, communities, and organizations to transform the ways they consume to improve well-being for people and the planet. We envision a world in which the values that enhance well-being, such as relationships, service to others, spending time in nature, community building, and personal growth, that those are the things that help to drive societal behavior and then therefore result in reduced consumption and a healthier planet. So I'm going to pause right now and pose a poll question to the group, just asking who of those listening today have heard of New Dream before today. So if you can click yes or no, we'll leave the screen up with the poll for a few minutes while I tell you a little bit more about the background of the organization. Across the US, there's been notable progress on these issues since New Dream was founded 20 years ago. Phrases like buy local, carbon footprint, consume responsibly were at that time either unheard of or considered on the fringe. A handful of forward-thinking activists sought to draw attention to the links between individual action, social justice, and broader environmental impacts, and between excess materialism and negative impacts on human well-being, including on children's development. So then out of that effort, New Dream was born to spur awareness and create resources to help individuals, institutions, communities question the far-reaching impacts of consumption and counter the commercialization of our culture. We've long worked to fight back against the culture that tells us that our worth is defined by what we have, how much we have, and what it is and how much. That's the old dream, the dream that's driven by consumerism. But as our communities continue to experience still very much today social and environmental disruption, the work to define a new dream, one that includes all of us, is very urgent and messy, and that's what we're continuing to want to support and encourage. So ultimately, New Dream's overall goal is to help change behavior, attitudes, and social norms to reduce consumption, build community, and improve quality of life, and to support the movement of individuals and communities pursuing lifestyle change, community action, and solutions to our social, economic, and environmental problems. So with that, all of that background, now we can flip to see what the results are of the poll. Let's see. Oh, wow, that's so interesting to know 80%. This is all new to 80% of you. So good. I hope that you'll find something really helpful and meaningful, valuable, useful for your communities in this presentation today. So I think I can jump ahead to the next slide. Oh, too far. Thanks for bearing with me. Simplify the holidays. That is New Dream's popular campaign that provides inspiration and practical tools to help individuals and families, communities enjoy what matters most and prioritize meaning and fun over consumption and stuff during the holidays. The campaign and the resources are intended to help us turn our vision of more meaningful holidays into reality. And then by doing that, we're moving forward the societal shift from a focus on consumption to a focus on caring and connection to ourselves, to each other, and to the planet. So, and ideally, you know, the hope is that this extends not just for beyond the holidays to be every day. The Simplify the Holidays campaign also includes the research you'll hear about next from Kelly, But first, I'm going to highlight a few of the latest facts about holiday shopping and spending. So by the numbers, this year, 2018, retail sales are expected to total around 720 billion. That's a 4.5% rise over last year and can be compared to a 3.9 average rise over the previous 5 years. Also this year, according to the National Retail Federation forecast, 9 out of 10 Americans report that they will spend as much or more this holiday season than last year, with expected average spending to be about $658. In a 2013 survey also revealed that at that time, 46% of consumers admitted that they're likely to overspend their holiday budget. Meanwhile, the US is rapidly running out of landfill space. According to the new report by the Solid Waste Environmental Excellence Protocol, SWEEP, it looks like the 2,000 active landfills in the US that hold the bulk of this trash are reaching their capacity, and that the US is on pace to run out of room in landfills within 18 years. So a few more encouraging holiday facts. According to the national polls New Dream conducted in 2005 and 2014, more than 3 in 4 Americans wish that holidays were less materialistic. And nearly 9 in 10 Americans believe that holidays should be more about family and caring for others, not about giving and receiving gifts. An overwhelming majority of Americans feel that we will need to make major changes in the ways we live to counterbalance the environmental destruction resulting from our high consumption lifestyles. So why simplify the holidays beyond these important environmental reasons? Recent studies do suggest that beyond a certain annual per capita income, happiness and well-being is a function of non-material factors. Values that are most linked to well-being are those that direct us to have experiences that help us feel safe and secure, competent and worthy, authentic and free, and connected to others. According to psychologist Tim Kasser, the author of The High Price of Materialism, these intrinsic values are grounded in people's real psychological needs and are focused on strong relationships, community feeling, helpfulness, having access to nature, personal growth, more opportunities to grow and build skill, and self-acceptance. Surveys also show, I want to note, that people who focus more directly on their families, friends, and spirituality during the holidays report to have a happier and more satisfying season. So Kelly, you can take it from here.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank Casey and New Dream so much for letting me do my thesis with them, Alec and Kirk for inviting us to present, the City of Raleigh who helped fund my thesis research, and anybody that took my survey or participated in a focus group. I think some of you may be on the line. So first off, thank you to all of you. So I do want to just set the stage for this talk and root it kind of in the recycling community. So we definitely have more restrictive markets due to China's national sword, making it difficult to recycle less than perfect material, right? And even with well-run, convenient curbside recycling programs, we can have stagnant recycling rates or capture rates. And the interesting thing about recycling is it's got this feedback loop that actually makes us consume more. So we consume something, we recycle it or we compost it, and that makes us feel good about ourselves, so we consume more. And finally, waste disposal and the subsequent generation of methane can affect climate change, which affects our health. And waste disposal creates leachate, which can be harmful to our environment and health if not properly handled. And the improper disposal of waste can breed mosquitoes that transmit deadly diseases to humans. There is a climate change and health effect. So I want to kind of just move beyond that current status then and share some ideas for you. So what if we were to take this opportunity in restrictive markets to change the narrative from recycling is getting more difficult or expensive to decreasing consumption and decreasing the ultimate need to recycle or compost? And I don't have the answer to this, but if a community runs a well-run curbside recycling program or a college and university recycling program and participation rates begin to stagnate or decline, how do we really know that's bad? If waste disposal also is not increasing, can we assume that waste prevention is occurring? So again, I don't have the answer to this, but I definitely want to just highlight that I know metrics around waste prevention is difficult. And one thing my public health degree taught me was that prevention is key. In health, we want to prevent people from getting sick in the first place, and the same idea of prevention for waste is true. We want to prevent waste from being generated, and one way to do that is to move upstream to decrease consumption. So I love the title that Alec gave this. And I'd really like to see the recycling community embrace waste prevention as a movement, something that not only tackles the individual feedback loop, but gets us to consume more, but changes the larger infrastructure. When we talk about moving upstream, there's a really good video that the public health community uses. I'm not going to show it here, but if you want, you can grab this URL from the slides and watch it later. And then finally, the environmental community has been talking about polar bears and melting ice caps in relationship to climate change for years. And this doesn't necessarily resonate with everybody, so that I would argue that a public health frame might be able to move others to take environmental actions when they see how it personally affects their own health and well-being. All right, a little bit off my soapbox there. So as my bio stated, about 4 years ago, I started to get this master's in public health, and my interest really lies at this intersection of health, environment, and social change. And there's lots of topics around this, right? Like illegal dumping and vector and air pollution and asthma. But for my thesis, I took a different route, and I focused on this idea of environmental degradation and its relationship to mental health. And last year, as Casey mentioned, I was reintroduced to New Dream and volunteered to do my thesis there. So if you do a quick search on Amazon, you will find over 24 books about the zero waste lifestyle. And this doesn't even include people that follow the voluntary simplicity or minimalistic movement. The general public is starting to take this term and is running with it. And I know there are a lot of different schools of thought regarding this term when it, the recycling community likes it or hates it or loves it. But I just wanted to show you that whether we like it or not, people are using it. And so we need to be cognizant of that. So how do we get individuals to decrease consumption? And there are lots of schools of thought around behavior change also. You could do conservation psychology, behavioral economics, environmental literacy, social marketing. I don't really care what you call it, but the ultimate goal is behavior change. So in social marketing, one theoretical model we like to use is the social ecological model. And I'm showing this here because of this idea to move upstream. It's a very holistic way of looking at an issue and provides a lot of insight into the different components that affect long-term behavior change. So I just want to mention, though, that my research really just focused on the individual, but there are other ways to be working with waste prevention that are more than just the individual. And I hope to have some time at the end to come back to this. So the goal of my project was to motivate individuals to shift some purchases from material gifts to experiential gifts during the winter holidays, thus spending time with friends and family and hopefully in the out of doors, leading to a boost in long-term happiness and overall well-being, along with supporting the environment by decreasing consumption. So the 5 behavior change steps that I took from my project are showing here on the screen. They come from the book Fostering Sustainable Behavior by Doug Mackenzie Moore. Some of you may be familiar with that. I'm going to go through each of these steps as we walk through my presentation, but I just kind of wanted to highlight for you the 5 different steps before we start. So we picked a very specific behavior, right? There are a lot of alternative gifts that you might want to ask somebody to give during the winter holidays, but we specifically asked them to give an experiential gift. And that could be going someplace with friends and family, getting out in nature, as you've heard us mention, or maybe it's doing a class together. This could be you teach it to a friend, or you go to the rec center and you take a class together. It did not need to be the all-powerful Disney trip that everybody thinks of that's very expensive. So we were really looking for these simple but meaningful experiences that you could give. So for step 2 of the social and behavior change framework, you do a lot of barrier and benefit research. So I did a lot. I did focus groups and I did 2 surveys. I'm going to go over the barrier and benefit survey that came from 189 participants in North Carolina. And you'll see on the screen here, we had a pretty good variation in the respondent demographics. And that was because I was able to purchase a survey panel with money donated by the city of Raleigh. So props again to them. They were awesome. So in addition to running the statistics on some of the demographic questions, I also created a couple of indexes based on a series of questions that were asked within the survey. So I could segment people on outdoor activities, quote unquote, green-minded, and then those that were happy or unhappy. So I'm going to quickly go through the raw results so that we can get to kind of some of the segmentation results, which I think are more interesting. So probably of interest to those of you on the call for sure is, we asked what types of waste reduction activities do people say they're already doing. So from this slide, you can see that, often or almost always, people are carrying their refillable bottle or water mug. But you can see here at the bottom of the list, at sometimes are they borrowing or leasing goods or wearing clothes from thrift stores. So I think there's an opportunity here for the recycling and reuse and waste reduction community to maybe try to focus on some of these things farther at the bottom of the list. So we asked people, to rank 19 different activities that they do. So on here, you can see the top 3 and the bottom 3 activities that they do with friends and family at least once a year. So you'll notice hiking, biking, camping, fishing, and some of the other outdoor activities that we provided. Unfortunately, they're not at the top, but thankfully they're also not at the bottom. So these are the typical experiences already occurring by folks. So this slide shows the top benefit that people see as giving an experiential gift. And to friends, that was that it was unique. But they did think that there was a different benefit associated with giving an experiential gift to family, and that was more that it provided lasting memories. And you can see here the main barrier to giving an experiential gift, regardless of friends or family, is that it's just very hard to schedule these, especially when you live out of town. So these were the things that we needed to overcome if we wanted people to give an experiential gift. So as I mentioned, we did do some segmentation. So for this audience, you might be interested in what the millennials thought. They were more likely to create an online wish list that they would share with family. They did not feel that they would share this with a friend. They were also more likely to say that they'd be happier if they could buy more things, which frankly broke my heart, right? But if you think about kind of what Casey said, if our physiological needs of, clothing, food, and shelter are not easily coming to us, then we might be needing these, we might feel we need more money and more things just to cover those needs. They also, ironically here, were less likely to carry a reusable bag. So, between the fact that they're unhappy, I think that that's maybe because they're in school, they've got $20,000 in debt. They're still just trying to make ends meet. And I'm going to say that maybe they just skip a bag altogether. Hopefully they don't take a plastic bag, but they're also not bringing their reusable bag. Anyway, that's me being hopeful for the young people of our world. Not surprisingly, if you have less income, you're less likely to travel, and if you have more income, you're more likely to give an experiential gift, and inversely less likely to wear thrift store clothes or use cloth towels. So as a reminder from that slide about our demographics of the survey, 77% of respondents were non-Hispanic white. So I lumped all of the other ethnic and racial groups together. So these were statistically significant results for the other 23% of respondents. So non-whites are less likely to eat out, carry a refillable water bottle, and are more likely to use cloth towels. They also differed in their belief to the top benefit to giving an experiential gift, specifically to a friend. They believed it provided lasting memories, whereas non-Hispanic whites felt that the top benefit was that it would be unique. And non-whites thought the top challenge to giving an experiential gift to a family member would be that it was hard to think of an age-appropriate gift. So remember, the majority of our barriers to giving a gift was scheduling. But this group actually thought that finding an age-appropriate gift would be difficult. For the 3 indexes I created, there were some statistical differences. If you ranked higher on the happiness scale, you felt less need for material things, which is just fantastic, right? So what I don't know is I don't know if you have less things and you're happier, or are you happier so you have less things? I don't have the answer to that, but our research followed the national and global research about the happiness and materialism. Those that do outdoor activities were not that different than other responders, but what was interesting was if you didn't do any outdoor activities, you were also less likely to do any activity, period. So I kind of take that to mean, you know, if you don't go outside, you're also not going to the movies, you're not going out to dinner, in our group anyway. And finally, the hypothesis that was that if you were green-minded, you would have a higher environmental ethos and have a statistically different response, which was true, but we found that even those that were quote-unquote green-minded had room for improvement. They do not always pick the most environmentally friendly action. Okay, so just a really quick recap. So we've gone over the behavior and the barriers and benefits. And so the third step to the social marketing framework that we're using is the strategy, right? So our strategy was we created an online pledge around experiential gift giving. And that's what you're seeing here on the screen. It was a very well-written pledge that was specific and time-bound. And after somebody pledged, they received 3 weekly emails between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And the emails addressed these barriers that we heard in the research. The first email provided a summary of the research. The second email had sample wish lists, gift ideas, checklists, and other sample language that they could share with friends and family. And the third email highlighted stories of others that were giving experiential gifts to tie into norms. All right. So that pilot campaign was kind of our step 3 and 4, our strategies in our pilot campaign. And so step 5 of the framework is all about evaluation. So in early January of this year, we sent a post-pledge survey to the 241 pledge takers, and we asked about their experiences giving an experiential gift. And 69 post-pledge surveys were received for and 23 states were represented. So I will say here that I did not have a control, so I'm only really able to say so much about this group, but so how the pledge necessarily impacted the behavior and the other things going on in their life, I can't necessarily say that they were not intertwined. So the most common gift given was a gift card for an experience. So this couldn't be a clothing or electronics gift card. It had to be for an experience. But you can see here the other things that people gave that were experiential. So 83% of people that took the pledge followed through on their pledge and gave an experiential gift. 59% of gifts were given to family, so that was a little bit more common than giving to friends. And 42% of experiences were done within 2 weeks of giving, which I think is important, and it kind of ties to that whole idea of scheduling being a barrier, that the sooner you can do it while you're still with friends or family is best. So according to post-pledge takers, 33% increased their satisfaction with life after the holidays. However, on the downside, 28% had satisfaction with life go down after the holidays. So again, I can't say that this was related to giving experiential gifts. I think this is so tied up in how we spend our holidays, and they're wonderful for some and stressful for others. However, 64% said that they were somewhat satisfied to very satisfied with life after the holidays, and this was up from 58% before the holidays for the same group of people. So we did do pre and post and heard about their happiness before and after the holidays. So, in conclusion to this part, I just wanted to say, again, those with less things are happier, as shown by our research, and this does follow other national trends. It showed that there's really a difference between various segments. You know, we say this a lot in communications and marketing, but one message, program, or action cannot fit all. As I said, those that were quote-unquote green-minded have room for waste prevention improvement too. So a lot of times we talk about, you know, that movable middle that maybe isn't doing everything we want, and I think we can also talk to our choir and make sure that they're doing everything that they could be doing also. We do need more solutions around this barrier of scheduling. I don't think we have all the answers, so if there's some great minds out there, that is definitely some work that still needs to be done. And we need to help promote these inexpensive experiential gifts, like spending time in nature and teaching a skill. And Casey will talk a little bit about that in her presentation. And finally, there are so many things that we can be doing on an individual basis, you know, for waste prevention besides carrying our reusable mug and bag. And I hope that we activate our community to do some of those things in the future. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Kelly and Casey. As a reminder to our attendees, if you have a question to ask for any of today's speakers, please click on the plus sign next to the word question on the GoToWebinar dashboard to type this in. Let's go ahead and have some questions for Kelly and Casey. Oh, I'm sorry, Casey.
Yes.
Go ahead with this. I'm sorry, I was jumping the gun on questions.
No problem. No, we had built in a pause or a break if there were any questions directly linked to the research and the conclusions that Kelly just shared from her research.
Okay, yeah, well, let's do a couple then for Kelly. One is we had a question about what kinds of gift cards would count as experiential gifts. You gave a couple of examples of things that would not count. Did you get any information about what those gift cards were funding?
I'll tell you, I think food is the main one. You know, I personally got baseball tickets and theater tickets. So I think it's just more about not an LL Bean gift card or Gap or, you know, one of those things, but something that you would leave the house to do that's not necessarily just shopping. So I could go back maybe through and look at some of my qualitative comments from the survey, but I think mostly food, movies, theater, tickets, that kind of thing.
Okay. And then you've already included some handouts that can be seen in the dashboard screen for our attendees, but we did have a specific question about the content of the 3 emails that you sent out to your pledge takers. Would that be included in some of the documents we've already got here, or is that something that maybe we could post on our website at a later date?
Yeah, they're not in that kit. Either Casey's or mine, but I do not mind sharing some of them. Actually, Casey, you know what? I think they are linked on the website because I used a lot of the content. I can find them, and I think it'll be easy enough to to share some links where they are on the website.
Okay, great. Well, with that, let's go ahead and get back to Casey, and we'll have some more questions in a little bit.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and so now my goal right now is to introduce or review some of New Dream's Simplify the Holidays campaign resources. The campaign includes a rich catalog of resources that are designed to help folks escape the shopping, spending, frenzied preparations that have become synonymous with our winter holidays. And we hope that the free tools, tips, stories, and guides, that they can be helpful to you and your community. And we welcome you sharing them with your networks. You'll find descriptions of each of the resources I'm going to highlight in the handout section provided for the webinar. The handout also provides sample messages and graphics you can easily incorporate into the newsletter, into a newsletter, email, blog post, or a social media blurb. The first resource I'd like to mention is New Dream's free, easy to use online tool called the So Kind Registry. It offers the ability to create a wish list of things that Kelly was describing: gifts of time, experience, handmade goods, charitable donations, useful items, or, in fact, you can also incorporate useful items that you might actually need. With a wish list, though, you can request gifts that are aligned with your values and your lifestyle, and also reduce the clutter in your life. And then you can distribute the wish list to family and friends to inspire meaningful holiday giving for yourself, but also hopefully for them to adopt as well. So Kind also enables you to create something called a give list, which is a reverse registry where you can list the items that you'd like to offer your friends and family as holiday gifts, and which they can then claim from the list. So here's an example of a holiday wish list for a family. The screenshot here doesn't show the full wish list, but it includes, I'll just summarize too some of the things that it does include: requests for membership to a local museum, a music class, a CSA membership, help with babysitting, contributions to the kids' dress-up bin, a support with gardening or sewing help, secondhand board games that are maybe no longer in use in another house, and donations to the local library or other nonprofit. And I'd like to note that there is a study from Stanford that shows that gift recipients actually appreciate gifts that they explicitly request more than those that they do not. Here's an example of a holiday give list. So with the give list, you can turn the traditional registry on its head and offer the gifts you'd like to give your loved ones or friends. Like for example, if there's a local artist that you would like to support, you could put one of her pieces on your give list, or organizations that you want to help this year, you could add them to the give list. And if one of your loved ones chooses that gift, you could make a donation in his name. You could offer a small contribution that you're happy to donate to a charity of the recipient's choosing. But other ideas are offering a skill that you'd like to share, or something from within your family. Like if your son would make a fine dog walker but doesn't have a dog to walk, or if your daughter would be interested in teaching a younger friend how to play a song on a recorder, or if you're good with a camera, family portraits are always in high demand. You can list ideas like this, let your loved ones choose so that your out-of-the-box kind of gift ends up with somebody who really wants it or will appreciate it. And then you can create fun new memories with these folks that you care about. That's the idea behind it. The Simplify the Holidays guide is a popular planning resource that includes practical tips to help folks create a more meaningful holiday season that's focused on sharing, more laughter, creativity, and personal renewal. This is a page from the guide that helps users to identify aspects of holiday celebrations that feel most important and meaningful, so that you can help cut out the things that just don't serve that purpose. You can download this guide directly, as well as all these resources, from the New Dream website. The Simplify the Holidays calendar is an online 6-week calendar that offers interactive quizzes, practical tips, real stories, and personal inspiration to help plan a holiday season with more joy and less stuff. This is a look at the online calendar. Each week has a different theme, like budgeting, entertaining, reducing waste, creating more meaning. And then each day has a different activity, like a tip or a story example or an exercise to help you count down to the holidays. The More Fun, Less Stuff catalog is an alternative gift catalog that does not arrive in the mail, but is available online, with hundreds of alternative gift ideas that also are in line with Kelly's, the experiential gift ideas that don't break the budget, but are meant to strengthen relationships and improve lives. This is a sample page from the catalog featuring gift ideas that might be particularly suitable for parents or grandparents, and include a lot of just gifts of time and presence. You can use New Dream's printable coupon book to deliver several of the ideas listed in the alternative gift catalog. Gifts of time, experience, and memories, using this coupon template that you can print out. You can customize them and give them to folks of all ages. Here you also see listed another small sample of gift ideas from the catalog. So New Dream also has 2 resources focused specifically on family celebrations. The Family Celebrations Guide is full of tips for hosting all sorts of celebrations and community events, focused more on meaning and connection. It includes a section dedicated to holiday celebrations, but it also covers events like baby showers and birthday parties, community potlucks, community group meetings, backyard barbecues, all of those ideas. And then the 15 tips for commercial-free, fun-filled family holidays includes tips to help caregivers opt out of the commercial hype and truly create a special but more sustainable celebration with their kids. This is a screenshot of some of the suggestions and links to resources from the 15 tips, which, like all of our resources, is available as a download or a printable PDF for distribution. And despite our best efforts, many of us fall into a last-minute panic as the holidays near and run out to buy just one more stocking stuffer or gift for a coworker. New Dream, therefore, offers a listing of last-minute gift ideas, and some of the ideas that are shown here include, in the top left, a subscription to a monthly homemade dessert for 3 months or however long you want to make. It's your subscription, you make the terms. The top right is, a coupon good for a weekend sleep in. It's probably better for a family member. Bottom left is coupon good for a night of indoor camping, includes scary stories and s'mores. Or you could offer yourself up as an exercise accountability partner. New Dream also has a Simplify the Holidays video that's a short, easy to share video that gives an overview of how and why to simplify the holidays. Sharing the video is a great way to bring family and friends along with how you would like to celebrate the holidays and encourage them to join in. And then new this year, we've created the Simplify the Holidays community presentation. So this is a pre-designed presentation, pre-packaged slideshow that walks presenters through making the case for more meaningful holidays, and includes some hurdles and possible solutions or resources that could be helpful with simplifying. the presentation is intended to help facilitate a conversation with a local or regional group, such as groups within college and university communities, or to just simply share with your inner circle. And then finally, the Simplify the Holidays pledge. We've updated it this year to give folks the ability to select at least 3 actions from a long list of options that they will adopt this year to celebrate the holidays with more of what matters. So the campaign section of the New Dream website also includes, just want to mention it also includes, stories and tips from our followers about how they've simplified their holidays. We asked our readers in the last year and the year before to submit their suggestions and ideas, and the responses were pretty awesome and overwhelming. So I encourage you to check out their tips too. So in conclusion, I hope that the resource listing handout can make it easy for you to choose and share resources you think will be helpful to your community. If there's anything else I can do to make it easy for you to get the word out about these free tools and guides, please let me know. With Thanksgiving right around the corner, it's a perfect time to encourage folks to make plans for how they're going to simplify and focus their time, energy, money on making this time of year really most meaningful for them. And with
Great.
that,
Oh, thanks so much, Casey. That's really incredible information. I think there are a lot of resources there that, as your poll question showed, 80% of us attending today weren't familiar with New Dream already, and I think there's a lot that's applicable on our campuses. But in prepping for this presentation today, is there anything specific that really stuck out to you as something that would be the first thing that you would try and apply on a college campus in the resources that you all offer?
I would love to be part of a small group or a group conversation with folks in the university or college setting about how they, in that stage of life, how they're adapting or evolving traditions that they've grown up with to be suitable for the reality that they're living in now. And I imagine, like as Kelly referenced earlier, it's a time where folks are really usually financially very strapped, and so come up with many more creative ways of celebrating and enjoying the season. So in some ways, I hope some of these resources would be supportive and validating to them, and provide more inspiration on that they don't, celebrating the holidays doesn't have to involve so much money and spending and going into deeper debt. There are, I hope that some of these tools will help to validate that gifts of time and experience, if that's something they have to offer, are really legitimate gifts and even greater gifts than just buying something for the sake of buying it at a store.
Great. And then this question, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I did do a focus group with the millennials on American University's campus, they definitely saw giving of their time to their family as a gift. So I think more people, of that age hopefully feel that way. And they also, as I said in the survey, were more likely to use that online gift registry, the wish list. So they're just more savvy, they're used to the Amazon wish list. So if college campuses wanted to promote that or put that as like an ARD event kind of like tool or something, that might be useful.
Great. And this is a little bit outside the scope of, the specific issue that y'all are looking at with holiday giving, but an issue that faces all of us on college campuses is swag or promotional items, both what we might want to give out as a program to market or promote our program. And there are a lot of great options: reusable water bottles, reusable bags, reusable straws that attempt to get at waste prevention. But in the context of, even though I know you didn't focus on that, do you have any thoughts or feelings about perhaps specific alternative promotional items or an approach to the myriad student organizations and departments that they're buying up a lot of cheap stuff that usually just gets thrown away?
I think by encouraging folks too to have a kit with them of those things they need when they're away from their home or apartment, like Kelly also referenced earlier too, of a mug and a bottle and a bag, then it's less need for them to, hopefully there'll be less demand, or less that swag will just not be as popular or claimed. It's a struggle we actually have just in our organization ourselves, of how we get the message out and awareness about our issues without having stuff like bumper stickers. I mean, we've in the past created a bumper sticker that had more fun, less stuff on the bumper sticker, and some people loved it, and some people were so, rightly so, critical that we had produced a thing. So it's a I understand the challenge here, and I wish I had a magic bullet answer, but
This is Kelly. I think that the difference for me is whether you give it or they get to choose to take it. So I do not need another cloth bag. Every conference I go to, they want to give me a cloth bag, and I'm like, I don't need it. So if it's somebody that can opt in, they're a freshman and they don't have that toolkit, as Casey was saying, great. There is this barrier with carrying all that stuff. You know, now I got my metal straw, I got my bag, so it's tough. I would say if you can somehow give people the gift of time or the gift of food as a college student, that'd be awesome. You know, I don't know what the gift of time is, you know, or a promo item that includes time, but maybe I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tricky question, but those are great answers to try and get at that. So, Casey, we also had a question about kind of going back to the majority of the attendees today not having heard of New Dream, and now having heard of a lot of the incredible resources that you do offer. How much press and attention have you gotten maybe from the national media, or do you have a plan for that? And then perhaps are there ways that on college campuses we could help promote that somehow?
Oh, thank you for that offer, or thought. We gladly accept. That's why we were just thrilled to have the chance to participate in the talk today to get the word out. Our staff, behind the scenes of New Dream, you know, is a 20-plus-year-old organization, so there's a lot that has been created over time, but we are super small. We're a group of 5 very part-time people we're a virtual office, so we're spread around the country. And we've struggled with the marketing or the communications piece, the online, promoting. We're a group of people who loves to problem solve and create resources, and we've been terrible at any kind of sales or getting our resources out there in the world so that people know about them. So we have received New Dream, when it was years ago, was a much larger organization, and it did receive a lot more media attention. Now we tend to get inquiries mainly around the holidays. So this is when people Google consumerism more frequently. And so we participated in an interview, a couple interviews in the past 2 years that I'm aware of about Halloween, and trends, the increased amount of spending that's going into that holiday. And then I'm sure there'll be inquiries too leading up to end of year, celebration. So Those we do, you know, offhand, I haven't checked the media section of our website that recently to see what is listed recently to make sure it's up to date, but we do or did have those articles listed on our website.
Great. Well, do keep the questions coming in, but we are going to move on to our next presenters. Our next presenter. Lauren Heileman is the Manager of Programs and Client Services at Root Solutions, where she manages several behavior change projects, including all paper reduction projects and a marine debris prevention project. Lauren also plays a leading role in delivering and developing Root Solutions trainings, products, and services, in addition to cultivating relationships with current and potential partners. A fourth-generation Californian, Lauren is enjoying life in the Bay Area after 3 very cold but formative years in Michigan for graduate school. With that, I'll hand it over to Lauren.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Hi, so as Larry just said, my name is Lauren, and I am here to discuss Root Solutions and AASHE's Turning the Page on Campus Paper Use program. Let me just make sure the slides are working for me. Oh, there we go. I'm here to discuss our Turning the Page on Campus Paper Use program and how we are using a behavioral approach to prevent paper-related consumption. So to give you a bit more background about Root Solutions, we are an environmental behavior change nonprofit, and our mission is to help pro-environmental organizations increase their expertise and their ability to design and implement more effective behavior change campaigns. And we do this through working directly on client projects, but also through capacity building programs like workshops and the Turning the Page cohort program. And we are also working on publishing a book that's tentatively called Designing for Environmental Action, a Practitioner's Guide. And I can talk a little bit more about that at the very end when I go over some resources. And currently we do our work with nonprofits, government agencies, and other large organizations like universities. So my goals today are to give you a better understanding of what behavior design is and why it matters, and to tell you more about the process and some examples from our Turning the Page program. And then for you to walk away with some actionable ideas, strategies, and resources for using behavioral insights to implement your own paper reduction and other sustainability campaigns. So what is behavior design and why does it matter? So before we jump into the details of Turning the Page, I just wanted to take a step back and talk about behavior design, what it is. So it is the science of encouraging action and new behaviors by design. And we draw on insights from the fields of cognitive science, conservation psychology, behavioral economics, social marketing, which I imagine many of you are familiar with, and Kelly was also talking about this earlier, as well as design thinking, and all with the goal of encouraging pro-environmental action. Okay, well, why do we need such a field? So the reason we need behavior design is that for about the past 5 decades or so, the environmental movement has actually taken a very different and much less effective approach. And many people call this the information deficit model. And so that's to say that we have kind of operated under this model and belief that, you know, if we can only give people more information about the problem and make them more aware, then we can change their behavior. But sadly, and I think many of us have experienced this ourselves, this model just doesn't really hold true most of the time. And research shows us time and again that information is insufficient at changing behavior. And in some cases, it can even backfire and result in the opposite effect that we want. And so all of this means that many conservation campaigns have failed because we have focused our resources on just one factor, awareness, and not all of these other determinants of behavior that might be more powerful to our audience, such as social norms, for example. And so this is what Root Solutions is all about, is helping organizations move from this information and awareness focused approach to a more strategic approach. And so on that note, we started the Turning the Page program in partnership with AASHE in 2017 in order to teach campuses how to identify and leverage these other and often more powerful determinants of behavior. And the program is focused on paper reduction campaigns, but the way the program is designed, the participants learn skills that can be applied to any environmental behavior change campaign that they want to apply in the future. And so currently we're in our second cohort of the program. And in each cohort, we coach about 10 campuses in the US and Canada. And this year we even have a university, American University in Cairo, in how to use our human-centered design process to develop a behavior-based paper reduction campaign. And we do this through a kickoff workshop at the annual AASHE conference, where we cover an introduction to our human-centered design process and a few of our behavioral building blocks. And I'll talk more about those later. And then we follow this up with monthly training webinars where we cover the rest of the building blocks and continue to coach the group through the process. And we also have, in addition to the group webinars, we have one-on-one coaching, lots of emailing and troubleshooting calls, as much as the participants need. And cohort 1 started in 2017, and most of the schools chose to work on 2 main kinds of projects. So one was removing and replacing desktop printers, removing desktop printers and replacing them with fewer and more efficient multifunction devices, which have been shown to lead to less paper use, and they're also more energy and cost efficient. And 2 is just generally printing less. And most schools in this category focused on student and faculty printing and getting more materials onto online learning platforms like Canvas instead of printing. But we also had a school work with one of their highest printing departments, which was their International and Study Abroad Programs Office, to reduce the amount of promotional materials that were being printed, such as the study abroad, like pamphlets and flyers, which they found were using very large amounts of paper. And for our second cohort, we decided to try and see if we could just focus on desktop printer removal, and specifically really focusing on voluntary relinquishment. So people voluntarily offering to give up their desktop printers, and again, moving instead to using the networked printers, which are more efficient. And we did this because we thought every school focusing on the same issue would provide a better opportunity for collaboration, but also because this issue in particular, although it is very difficult, it can have a very high positive environmental impact and financial impacts. And some estimates put it at up to 40% in cost savings. And so after we help each campus narrow in on the specific behavior they want to change and who their target audience is, we do what we call a determinants analysis survey. And this is a very specific kind of survey that helps us find out why behaviors are or are not being performed. And this is important for a number of reasons. So first, we want to find out the barriers and the benefits of doing the behavior as the audience perceives them, not just as we perceive them or what we assume them to be. So for example, on Elaine's campus, Portland Community College, and she'll be talking after me, when they did their survey, they found that staff felt that, periodically walking to a shared office printer was actually seen as a health and a social benefit. But on other campuses, some campuses, their target audience saw it actually as one of the major negative attributes cited by staff or faculty. So I think that's a great example of not just assuming that you already know the barriers and the benefits, but taking the time to actually ask the audience themselves. And secondly, the specific survey that we do reveals the statistically significant differences between the people that do the behavior and those that are not doing it. So the people that do the desired behavior, we call them the doers, and the others are the non-doers. And what this does is it actually helps us narrow in on which factors or determinants of behavior are the things that are actually preventing behavior. So I'll give an example to illustrate this. So let's take recycling. So let's say that 90% of your population thinks that recycling doesn't really make that big of an environmental difference. We would call that they have low perceived action efficacy. And so if we didn't do the determinants analysis, we might focus all of our campaign messaging on why recycling matters and why it helps the environment. But if we did the doer, non-doer analysis, we might find that even though almost everyone doesn't think it makes that big of a difference, half of them are still avid recyclers. So if this is the case, whether recycling makes a difference or not isn't really the thing that is separating the doers from the non-doers. And so by doing the determinants analysis, we might find out what is the other factor or factors that we should address. So maybe it might be that actually the non-doers just don't think that they have the skills and knowledge, the self-efficacy to recycle properly. So instead, you might focus your campaign more on skill building and confidence building rather than just reiterating the importance of recycling. And so here are the 10 major determinants that we are trying to identify when we do this survey. And we've adapted this from public health. And so you'll see at the bottom, divine will tends to be more relevant in public health, but it can still play a role in some environmental issues. Not so much paper, but for example, climate change, you might see that plays an issue, comes into play. So I'll only just touch on some of these a little bit. So for example, memory, we pretty much can always assume that memory is a barrier. So can I remember how to use scrap paper in the printer, or can I remember how to print double-sided? Self-efficacy would be, do I have the knowledge, the skills? So, do I know how to use the multifunction device? Access, do I have the support that I need? Do I have access to the alternatives? Are there enough multifunction devices on my floor? Or are there electronic document alternatives? And I'll give an example. So 2 of our campuses found that the faculty that were not using Canvas, which is the online course software, those were the non-doers, had misperceptions about what students wanted. And they thought that students did not like course documents being online instead of printed. But it turned out that actually the students did prefer the course materials to be online. So the professors had a false perception of the negative attributes of using Canvas. And so this is a good transition to this slide. So what we want to do once we know there's a determinant like this and a difference between the doers and non-doers is we want to strategically choose the interventions that will address that determinant. And so for the example of the professors, we recommended that the schools address this perceived negative attribute by messaging to the professors that actually the students do want more of their coursework to take place. So instead, we're highlighting that students actually see this as a positive attribute or a benefit. And I'll also add that in particular, we recommend that they have the students be the messenger and not the sustainability office or the IT office in asking the professors to, for example, sign a pledge to use Canvas for the majority of their coursework. And so we've developed, we call it our roadmap. So it lays out, you know, if this is your determinant, then these are the primary behavioral building blocks or interventions that are best for addressing that determinant. And we've corralled sort of the hundreds of behavior change interventions into our behavioral building blocks, which spell out behavioral. And if you go on our website, it's not completely updated, but there's a lot of information about our behavioral building blocks on the website. And we do almost always pretty much include make it easy, and because we always want to make it as easy as possible, and then vivid, which often involves prompts and cues to help us with the memory problem. But I just want to point out that the other interventions you might include really usually just depend on the determinants that you identified in your survey. And so this is just a summary of this process that I've been discussing. So after we help them narrow in on the behavior and the target audience, we do the determinants analysis. Then that helps us choose and design the interventions. And then the schools will prototype and pilot these interventions and decide whether they want to scale them or adapt them. And so I'll just go through a few examples from our schools. So University of Iowa is one of our schools, and they were finding that staff in the International Programs Office wasn't very familiar yet with marketing their offerings digitally. And so they still, at this time, felt they needed to print documents. But what they did was when they started to table, they made a sign like this one that says, "Save trees, take a picture, save a flyer," encouraging students to just take a picture of the flyer instead of taking the physical copy. And from their piloting of that, they were estimating that about 1 in 4 people were choosing to take a photo over a flyer. These other examples are also just about making it easier. So with UC Berkeley, we are helping give that how-to knowledge and that procedural knowledge to make it easier for students to use less paper. And this example here is from actually Elaine's dissertation when she was at Pacific University, but they found a very specific barrier of people not knowing how to use scrap paper in the multifunction printers. And so they made this very specific prompt to remind or help people use scrap paper. Let me just see, how am I doing on time? Okay, I think I'm over time already, so let me know if I should wrap up or if it's okay to keep going over a few examples. Oh,
Lauren, yeah, we do need to wrap up. If you want to maybe take another couple minutes and then we'll transition.
Yeah. Okay. So some resources that we'll have for you. We have developed a case for desktop printer removal, and this goes over some of the high-level benefits of switching desktop printers with multifunction devices. And then it has about a dozen campus case studies, and this is something that we'll be sharing with everyone that's on the call today. And then coming out in early 2019 is our paper interventions guide. And so there will be tons of examples of paper interventions and which building blocks they relate to. And that will be published for the public. And so all the examples I didn't have time to talk about will be in there. And we will also keep people posted on when our book will be coming out. And then we also hope to do a meta-analysis of a desktop printer determinants analysis. So if that's something that you might be interested in being part of in the future, please let me know. And then, not our resource, but Environmental Paper Network their paper calculator is a great tool that helps basically put paper impacts into metrics that might be easier to understand or more relatable to people, such as gallons of water used, a number of trees used, etc. And their 4th version of the paper calculator is coming out, and they're hosting a webinar on the 14th, walking people through how to use that. So I thought that might be of interest. And so that's it for me. So if you have any questions or would like to follow up with me about anything, that is my email. And I believe Elaine is going to talk next about more details about what she did on her campus.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. This is Alec Cooley. I'm jumping in on behalf of Larry, who had to run for a meeting early this afternoon. But we have one last presenter that we're going to hear from this afternoon, and that is Elaine Cole from Portland Community College. Elaine is the Sustainability Coordinator at PCC's Rock Creek campus and is responsible for the overall coordination of sustainability practices and programs. Elaine used community-based social marketing to look at barriers and benefits to green office practices for her dissertation research. She uses a behavior change lens when implementing campus programs such as office composting or personal printer reduction. She has always had a deep commitment to population education, and her 2017 TEDx talk was titled Creating Eco-Friendly Families. And with that, I will welcome Elaine to the program. And you're now unmuted, or you should be unmuted now. You're actually, Elaine, you're not unmuted. I think you need to do this from your own phone line or your own desktop. So again, just a reminder, Elaine, we still need to have your line unmuted. Oh, there you go. Now you're right.
Okay, how's my audio now?
Now I can hear you. Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, and thanks, Lauren, for your presentation. I will do a quick overview of our efforts at Portland Community College for our personal printer reduction efforts. And I want to go right away into our first polling question. Alec, is that possible? I want to just assess if you have networked printers or not on your campus. This is something that when we were working with a cohort with Turn the Page, this played into our decision to go with choosing the behavior that we did. And I was interested to know where those of you in the audience are at with your campuses and if you have network printers or not. because as Lauren stated, this is going to have a big impact. Okay, super. So most of you do have networked printers, and some of you are using a managed print services program of some sort, and some of you don't know. That's a great thing to find out. Well, then we'll dive right in and give you an example of what we've done on our campus. So in the end, we decided that we would eliminate personal printers as our specific behavior change. And you can see there's a lot of paper use, as almost all campuses have. And we knew that there were all sorts of old and new personal printers on campus that people were using, like this brother, Intellifax 2820, and a real oldie. So we collected some baseline early on in our study by getting a couple of hardy crews to go out early morning on some clandestine visits throughout campus to look at and find all the personal printers while people weren't around. And we found 114 on our specific campus. We are at one of 4 main campuses and 6 centers that make up the large Portland Community College system, over 75,000 students overall. So this was our pilot campus where we found this, probably more, but that's the number that we came up with on that audit. I wanted to provide a little back story on in part of the decision why we did this. A policy was adopted by our board earlier in the study, and the print services pitched this to our board because they had formulated a contract with Xerox for managed print services and demonstrated through their proposal that there would be a huge cost savings, over $300,000, or that's the cost that it would to run the program annually, and we estimated that it would it's almost close to $1 million in savings, over $950,000. So the cost savings possibility, the cost savings were a huge factor in them accepting and proposing this. Lauren has already talked about the determinants survey, and these are just the highlights from our pilot survey that we did on the campus. Again, our target audience was staff and faculty. We got about over 102 good responses that we could collect the data from. And Alec, if you can put up the second poll, I wanted to just highlight and see what sort of behavior reduction or paper reduction strategies that you all are using on your campus that you know, specifically for staff and faculty. Now, you know, with behavior change programs, you need to specifically target your audience. So students would be a whole nother target audience and a whole nother campaign. And in this effort, we're just targeting the staff and faculty and their use of paper and then printers. So we found on our campus that some of the paper reduction strategies that we asked our faculty and what they were doing related to using their online software, like the Canvas on some campuses, D2L, Desire to Learn, which we have, Brightworks is another one. There's some efforts also that are going on. Okay, so we can see the results here. Okay, default settings on printers seems to be pretty common, as well as use of online software for courses. A lot of colleges have that. You'd think that would be pretty common. And then discouraging paper handouts. Okay, super. Thanks for that. Thanks for taking that poll. The other highlight I wanted to share on here were the barriers that we uncovered to paper reduction, and then these lead right into our strategies. But the perceived expense or cost was a very high concern. And then the second one really was a number of issues around confidentiality. And we get that a lot, especially with the higher level administrators. And then we were able to continue to drill down more and found out that people didn't even know there was such a thing as secure printing. Then even if they did, they didn't know how to do it, or there were barriers to, well, I tried it, and then they had, you know, fatigue early on. They just gave up. So that was a huge one, and that's one of the things that we're addressing as we move forward in our campaign. The benefits, the sustainability piece was really number one, but as Lauren already alluded to, we were quite curious to find out that people did get excited and put down the fact that they had to get up and go to the printers, the networked printers, and they saw that as a benefit. They also saw the social aspect of it, which I thought was curious. Meeting their colleagues at the networked printer in the office copy room was a benefit. Actually, a faculty member just told me that this morning. That's what she loves about getting up, and as well as all the efficiencies. So that was interesting findings. Some of our key strategies I just want to touch on. Early on, we had high-level early adopters that were highlighted in our efforts. Here's on the right was our president, and she unplugged because she knew it was the right thing to do. And on the left is a dean of social science, communication, and health. And when I asked him if he would unplug his printer, he said, "Yes, I'd love to free up the space." Never thought of that in our campaign, that space on your desk would be a benefit, but that just goes to show you that you uncover all sorts of things when you're you know, out and about. Oops, want to go back to the previous slide. It just goes to show that we have a lot of paper waste going on. This demonstrates the fact that I utilized our green team as a conduit to both educate them, because mainly they're administrative officers, and they're buying paper, toner, and such, as well as able to talk to faculty and others. This highlights just an email that I got from, again, a high-level dean that in his department he has a lot of personal printers that chairs and department heads have, but he said the cost of the per page was too high, and so he's not gonna get in on the networked printer program yet. But he eventually in September said he was willing to give up his personal printer, which happened after many visits. I wanted to share this piece because it demonstrates the branding that we've done with the program and incorporating print services, IT, and sustainability. So Panther Print is the title with our mascot, Poppy the Panther, and he's branded holding paper. And so that has gone out formally this year. And then this fall, with the formal launch of the program, this email went to all staff and faculty. This is one example of the cost savings that we're able to demonstrate so easily. Just the pallets of personal printer cartridges that show up at our distribution centers. It is estimated we spend $72,000 a month just on personal printer ink and toners. With the new program, we'll have a toner that'll show up in your office when your old one is empty, and then you put the shipping label on it and it goes right back out to Xerox and they process it. Incredible efficiencies, saving so much time and money and resources just with that one piece. And I wanted to highlight that we're not just doing this in a few months. This is a number of years that is projected in a sort of a 3-phase rollout, because we're already finding that, especially in higher ed, there is a strong feeling of entitlement for personal printers, and that's just one of the barriers. But this phased effort will really help to provide more goodwill and allow people to generally give up their printers on their own. Some of our next steps are, I'm about to get out a personal email to offer support to staff and faculty, and that's how we've been addressing a lot of the barriers. Personal visits. I will continue to go out with my intern to follow up with that, and we will do another audit in the next couple months to see where we are with our baseline data from our 114 printers. IT doesn't track that for us, so we're literally having to go out, and we will continue with our education as we interact with the personal visits with staff and faculty, and looking forward to the data that we'll have at the end of this this fall quarter to get out. And there we have it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Elaine. So I want to, we're right at our time for the webinar today. What I'm going to do is hold the additional questions for now, just to close out the program. What we'll do is share everybody's questions that have come in directly with our presenters, and we'll ask for them to simply be able to follow up with folks after the webinar by email. So I have a couple of closing slides. If you do have any remaining questions you want to share, go ahead and still type those in. As I said, I'll share those, and we'll be able to follow up after the program. So I do want to just highlight a couple upcoming things for Kirk. We have our next webinar, which is on December 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern, which you'll note is a special early time. And that is because we are pleased to be hosting a number of universities in the United Kingdom who will be presenting on this program. We'll be featuring a presenter from the University of Leeds, as well as several other schools that we're just in the process of finalizing now. We'll be sharing examples of case study examples of what these schools are doing, both with the recycling programs as well as reuse, and also looking at how schools are incorporating circular economy into their broader sustainability goals. And I'll point out that as with today's program, which will be, the recording will be posted online within the next day, along with the slides, you can also find a full archive of Kirk programs going back for a number of years on our website at www.curc3r.org. And I want to thank everybody who attended the Kirk workshop last month in Pittsburgh as part of the AASHE conference. We had a great showing and we had some great presentations. We have all of those are also now available online for folks to view the slide decks from our presenters. And also just want to make a plug for next year's workshop and conference, which will take place again with the broader AASHE Higher Ed Sustainability Conference that will be in Spokane, Washington, October 27th and 30th. We have obviously quite a ways till registration opens up and the programs available, but we'll have details to share specifically about the Kirk workshop in the months to come. And with that, I want to again thank AASHE as both a promotional partner and for their logistical help with presenting today's webinar, as well as the full 2018 series. I also want to thank New Dreams and Root Solutions for participating in today's program. And above all, I want to thank Kelly, Casey, Lauren, and Elaine for presenting. Look again for their presentations to be on the Kirk website and for the recording to be up for the next day. Everyone have a good afternoon. Thank you.